Iraqi Dinar Today latest news. The global financial landscape is currently exhibiting an unprecedented level of synchronized activity, suggesting major adjustments are being undertaken behind the curtain of routine international commerce. This isn't merely the predictable ebb and flow of currency markets. It represents a calculated, cohesive movement across international banking systems, the Central Bank of Iraq, and the overarching global financial network. We are observing the culmination of years of structural reforms and strategic positioning, which many financial observers consider to be the most critical juncture yet in the ongoing narrative of the Iraqi dinar. The information emerging today serves to illuminate the systemic preparation underway, providing a factual framework for understanding the trajectory of the Iraqi currency. For those keenly following the evolution of Iraq's monetary policy and the broader shifts in world finance, the current moment demands close attention. This is not driven by unsubstantiated chatter, but by observable actions within core financial infrastructure. A significant focus of this preparation is evident within the United States banking sector. Over recent weeks, major American financial institutions have demonstrated a pronounced increase in systemic readiness measures, far exceeding the scope of typical maintenance cycles. These are not isolated events. They are structured, coordinated updates targeting foreign exchange systems and involving detailed internal notifications to staff regarding potential sudden shifts in currency rates. Such a heightened state of monitoring and preparation is universally understood in banking circles to precede a substantial global currency event. Banks are not designed to waste resources on system-wide alerts without a tangible expectation of significant, imminent transactional volume or rate modification. When America's largest, most technologically advanced banking entities begin to mirror these preparatory actions, the implication is not a coincidence, but rather a concerted, forward-looking strategic coordination across the financial services industry. The necessity for this elevated state of readiness stems from the sheer volume of potential activity a major currency shift could generate. Should a heavily held currency, such as the Iraqi dinar, undergo a significant revaluation, the immediate and primary stress point on the global system would be the U.S. banking network, which holds a substantial portion of the world's retail currency speculation interest. Therefore, these institutions are systematically engaging in compliance checks, liquidity stress testing, and adjusting cross-border transfer protocols. The goal is simple: to ensure their infrastructure can withstand a surge in global traffic and a massive wave of foreign exchange transactions without disruption, delay, or systemic failure. The simultaneous nature of these preparations across multiple, high-tier institutions strongly signals that a major event is not only anticipated, but actively being accommodated within their technical architecture. Turning our focus to Iraq, the nation has been engaged in a multi-phased reform initiative aimed at elevating its currency to a standing commensurate with its economic potential. The painstaking, multi-year process of financial modernization is now visibly entering its advanced stages. The Central Bank of Iraq (CBI) has been issuing increasingly confident and detailed statements, shifting its language from planning and proposing to one emphasizing completion, readiness, and implementation. This is a crucial semantic shift. When a central bank publicly confirms that its monetary reform project has moved past the setup phase and is now in implementation mode, it unequivocally signals that the structural foundation, the digital systems, regulatory oversight, and international financial connections has been successfully laid and tested. The internal reforms within Iraq are expansive, encompassing an overhaul of digital banking systems, a tightening of financial oversight to align with international anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing standards, and a deep push for regulatory compliance across its entire banking sector. The goal is to integrate the Iraqi financial system seamlessly into the global economy. This modernization effort is not an end in itself. It is the necessary precursor for the next phase of monetary policy. The scale of investment and the official nature of the CBI confirmations indicate that the preparatory stage is complete. The logical progression of such exhaustive, resource-intensive structural reform is a corresponding adjustment in the international value of the national currency to reflect this newfound stability and integration. Furthermore, in a notable departure from previous decades, public discourse within Iraq has become surprisingly open regarding topics of exchange rate reform, stronger purchasing power, and long-term economic stability. For years, these sensitive subjects were restricted and handled with extreme caution by state media and government officials. Today, they are increasingly frequent and visible components of public conversation among citizens and business owners alike. Governments typically do not foster public expectation of a major positive financial shift, unless they are confident the underlying transition is about to become a reality. This shift in public messaging acts as a form of social conditioning, preparing the population for the visible effects of a strengthened currency. On the ground in Iraq, additional internal readiness signs are being observed. Reports from local markets and banking branches suggest a focus on practical, logistical preparations. There are discussions of updated currency note structures, widespread training sessions being conducted for bank personnel, and sophisticated internal system tests being executed behind closed doors. These are not policy debates. They are logistical actions that directly precede a physical and digital currency change. The convergence of this internal, tangible readiness inside Iraq with the simultaneous, proactive preparation observed within international banking systems significantly narrows the potential window of activation for any major currency adjustment. The internal mechanism is wound up, and the global recipient systems are being calibrated to receive the data. Back in the U.S., the internal alerts across major financial institutions are multifaceted, extending beyond mere rate monitoring. They are intrinsically linked to core operational capabilities like compliance checks for new international regulations, detailed liquidity testing to model the flow of funds post-event, and crucial adjustments to cross-border transfer mechanisms. These highly technical and essential activities are standard operating procedure only when banks are anticipating a deluge of financial transactions or a paradigm shift in a major foreign currency's status. Ensuring stability and preventing system overload is paramount, and the synchronized nature of these global efforts underscores the seriousness of the anticipated change. The sheer fact that so many diverse institutions are moving in parallel suggests a broad, systemic anticipation of a major currency realignment. The possibility of the sudden revaluation of any undervalued currency would place immediate and intense pressure on the U.S. banking infrastructure due to the high number of global investors utilizing these platforms. The necessary response, which we are currently witnessing, is a preemptive mobilization. Banks are effectively installing safeguards and increasing bandwidth to manage a high-impact, high-volume event. This collective readiness across institutions is the practical, non-speculative evidence that something significant is expected to move in the foreign exchange markets. One of the most concrete technical indicators of this pending shift is the observed synchronization occurring across international banking networks with updated foreign exchange servers. These server synchronization tests are highly resource-intensive, time-consuming, and expensive operations that institutions only undertake when absolutely necessary. Running these tests across global networks at this precise moment, in the current time frame of November 2025, is not arbitrary. It is a direct response to the verifiable progress of Iraq's internal financial reforms. As Iraq demonstrates increased transparency and compliance, the global systems must adjust to integrate the new, higher compliance financial reality. This systemic adjustment is how genuine preparation manifests, not through fleeting rumors, but through the deliberate, visible movement of digital and physical financial infrastructure. The trajectory is clear. Every step Iraq takes toward transparency and banking modernization necessitates a reciprocal adjustment from international financial platforms to maintain synchronization. This continuous, infrastructural alignment provides a reliable indicator of the systemic progression toward international integration, confirming that the current process is rooted in factual policy execution and not in mere theoretical aspirations. Furthermore, the Central Bank of Iraq has been increasingly vocal in asserting its readiness for full international integration. This declaration carries substantial weight because it signifies more than just aspiration. It reflects a demonstrated adherence to global compliance standards in practice, not just in principle. The extensive effort and expenditure invested by Iraq to modernize its financial technology, update its legal frameworks, reinforce controls on currency movement, and connect to global settlement platforms would be entirely contradictory if the sole outcome was maintaining the currency's current low exchange rate. The purpose of deep-seated reform is fundamentally to enhance a currency's strength, transparency, and global participation. When a sovereign currency achieves full international integration, the market valuation is compelled to reflect the nation's true economic fundamentals. Iraq possesses immense foundational wealth, driven by vast oil reserves, a growing trade presence, significant energy resources, and strategic geopolitical influence. A currency trading at a fraction of a cent is not an accurate reflection of this underlying reality. The process of reform is designed to bridge this gap, moving the currency's value closer to its actual economic standing. Correction of this deep undervaluation is a logical consequence of successful economic and monetary stabilization. Analysts and informed observers within the financial community are pointing to a number of operational measures taken by the CBI that typically occur only during the final stages of a major monetary transition. These observations include the specific ways certain banking systems are being tested and the intentional, public communication about projected economic growth. Such preparatory transparency with the populace is usually reserved for moments when foundational stability has been quietly secured and a major policy shift is imminent. Historically, nations that transparently prepare their citizens for a currency change almost always follow through with a visible, definitive action to back up the raised expectations. Focusing again on the U.S. banking environment, the most compelling development is the pervasive shift into a structured preparation mode. This is distinct from either panic or crisis management. It involves systematic testing of proprietary platforms, exhaustive policy reviews, digital platform updates, rigorous verification of international compliance adherence, and the establishment of staff protocols for a sudden rate change. Banks do not issue internal warnings about foreign currency adjustments without a concrete, data-driven expectation. This expectation, according to technical analysts, is inextricably linked to a global currency realignment process. Currency realignment, in the purest financial sense, is not a period of chaos but a necessary correction. A systematic adjustment that aims to restore balance by moving both undervalued and overvalued currencies closer to their true economic equilibrium. Iraq represents one of the most compelling examples of historical undervaluation, a state prolonged by decades of conflict, international sanctions, and political turbulence. However, those inhibiting conditions are demonstrably changing. Iraq's economy is stabilizing, its trade partnerships are expanding, and its resource base, oil, gas, and gold, remains formidable. A correction of the current imbalance is therefore an economically sound and logical outcome of the nation's path to stability. The common question of what a global reset means is often misinterpreted. It does not imply economic collapse or the destruction of financial systems. Instead, It signifies a phase of economic recalibration where currency values are adjusted to accurately reflect their nation's economic weight, moving away from artificial suppression toward a market-realistic valuation. When a key currency tied to a resource-rich nation like Iraq shifts its valuation, the subsequent ripple effect influences global capital flows, trade balances, and overall economic partnerships. This global impact is precisely why financial institutions across the US, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East are maintaining such vigilance. Their preparations are not based on market rumors, but on the practical requirement to remain synchronized with any major global currency shift. The interconnectivity of the modern financial system mandates that they be ready to process transactions at a moment's notice, making their preparatory actions a verifiable metric of the impending change. They are simply moving in anticipation of the official, factual information that will inevitably be released. In Iraq, the central, powerful sign remains the increasingly open discussion surrounding purchasing power. The deliberate introduction of this concept into the public sphere is a critical maneuver. Governments use such public communication to shape positive expectations, allowing citizens to understand the forthcoming benefits: cheaper imports, increased buying capacity, and overall greater financial stability. This foundation of public understanding is being constructed because the underlying groundwork for a stronger currency is already complete. The next set of definitive signals to observe will include further authoritative pronouncements from the Central Bank of Iraq, verifiable adjustments appearing on recognized international foreign currency tracking platforms, updates to global financial databases, and the visible, synchronized movement of exchange rates across major banking and financial networks. When the time for action arrives, these signals will be clear, public, and unmistakable, rendering speculative rumors irrelevant. The eventual transition will be evidenced by official, institutional compliance, not by unverified chatter. We are currently situated in a moment where the internal reforms within Iraq have reached a critical mass, global banking systems have been brought to a state of readiness, and the pieces are aligning in a remarkable parallel fashion. As of November 2025, the convergence of Iraq's domestic efforts with the preparatory movements of international finance is at its strongest point in years. This transition is poised to be more than just an adjustment for Iraq. It carries the potential to influence global trade flows, encourage corrections for other undervalued currencies, and potentially accelerate broader changes in how countries approach asset-backed financial systems. Throughout this period of heightened anticipation, the most prudent course of action for all viewers is to remain measured, patient, and intensely focused on official, verifiable information. It is crucial to disregard fear-driven speculation, resist the urge to act on unverified claims, and move only in response to public, institutional announcements. The journey toward a financially stable, integrated Iraq has been protracted and challenging, but the current coordination of signals is rooted in real, observable systemic activity, not assumption. Iraq stands at a historic turning point. The global banking community is prepared, and the culmination of years of work is visibly coming together. Change of this magnitude is not an overnight occurrence. It is the inevitable result of meticulous, long-term preparation, which is precisely what is unfolding in real time. When the final announcement is made, it will stand as one of the most significant financial moments in the modern history of currency realignment. For those following the story of the Iraqi Dinar, this is a time for disciplined observation, not reaction. We must continue to watch for the official updates that will confirm the completion of this monumental process. Stay grounded, stay informed, and recognize that the foundations for change have never been firmer. We will continue to bring you all the factual updates as they emerge from verified, official sources. The focus remains on the visible progression of economic reform, and the corresponding readiness of the international financial ecosystem to accommodate a change. The deliberate, methodical steps taken by the Central Bank of Iraq, alongside the precautionary measures of major global banks, collectively illustrate a complex system moving toward a predetermined point of integration. This intricate dance between national reform and international preparation is the defining characteristic of the current environment. The ultimate objective of Iraq's leadership and its central bank is to restore the nation's economic sovereignty and establish a currency that accurately reflects its substantial wealth and strategic importance on the world stage. Every reported compliance check, system upgrade, and official statement is a step toward this objective. It is a slow, complex, and high-stakes financial maneuver that requires both domestic political will and international cooperation.